Indiana is known for its limestone. In fact, Indiana limestone is used all over the world. But every year here in Ellettsville, Indiana, the Limestone Symposium happens. Let's find out a little bit more about that.
My name is Amy Breyer and I'm a co-founder of the Indiana Limestone Symposium. It's a 3-week-long event held every June. This is the 23rd year, and we have carvers who come from local and all over the country to carve limestone and be together and make a lot of dust and noise and have a good time. I got a Bachelor of Fine Arts and right afterwards did a study abroad summer program in Italy, went to Carrara, fell in love with the stone, everything, the culture around it. I was fortunate enough to get hired at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in New York City, which has been under construction on and off for over 100 years. I was carving Indiana limestone there for 6 years, 3 years purely by hand, so I really became intimate with the stone and it became my favorite carving stone. The limestone is soft, it finishes with a chisel, there's no polishing and all the processes that one goes through with marble. And it's also kind of our American stone. It's the what we call the fabric of many, many historic buildings and monuments and state houses, and even down to porch steps and door sills. I think it's in every state in the contiguous U.S. and it comes from right here. All throughout Europe is a tradition of stone symposium. The first one I saw was in Carrara, for example. They took a piazza, they put about 8 or 10 quarry blocks of marble in the piazza, then they invite artists to come, carvers to come and work on site. It's a public event, everybody watches. So I came here and thought, why isn't there one here? It's the perfect place. So this one is really a workshop, although we call it a symposium.
My name is Kathy Haggerty. I have several businesses in this county. So I'm a pawnbroker. I also deal antiques and collectibles, and I love limestone carving. I'd advise anybody to give it a try. You know, you never know till you try something. You know, I was intimidated. I thought, oh, I'm not a professional. There's all these people that are going to know what they're doing, and I just can't do it. I came anyway, and I say it's been probably 8, 9 years. I come back every year. There's no pressure. There's no competition. You're not here to compete with anybody. I love the people. It's just a great energy. There's all these really interesting people, just really talented, and maybe we're oddballs, I don't know, but it works out really good. I do things, I guess you'd say they're much more whimsical because they're fun. You know, I've got the fat cat I did. I have 2 gargoyles I've done before. I did a big horse head one time. They're things that I just want to do. They're not necessarily a big art piece for money for anybody. There are people here that are professional that do that do big pieces that are installed across the nation or the world. I do it for fun. I do. It's just fun if somebody can look at a piece and smile and go, that's what it's all about. This still goes strong. There's people that work like crazy to keep this going every year. It just gets better and better every year. We wish more people would join and come play. You know, beautiful weather. I mean, oh my gosh. We're out here in nature, and something so primal about beating on a rock, you know, like cavemen. And you can move that stone, you can change it, and it's a very powerful driving force, I guess. It's just fun to do. So that's it. It's got me hooked.
I think we have more returnees than newbies. So that's a good sign, but I would like that to equal out if, you know, because the returnees were all newbies once. People think, oh, I have to be an artist, or if anybody just feels like they might enjoy banging on stone, come. We have hand carving and we show you how to do it, and we start you off very simple. We even have things you can copy, and we haven't had an unhappy customer yet. And typically people start out hand carving, and if they really get into it, they graduate into the power tools. So that we've got going on the other side with pneumatic hammers and saws and all the toys that you could want. Then we have people who've been coming, you know, for almost as long as we've been going. We have had participants and guest carvers from England and Japan. It's really a little family.
Yeah, my name's Nicholas Fairplay, and I work as an architectural sculptor. I'm mainly here just for teaching the symposium, and it's nice because it's Indiana limestone, which is quite a nice stone for beginner carvers to work on. It's not really hard, and it's pretty durable. It's pretty prevalent in architecture in the U.S. But it's nice that actually at the symposium there are students from all over the country. We have students from sort of Cincinnati, Florida, Washington. So it's nice that they've come from quite afar. A lot of work that was done by hand or done with pneumatics is being done by CNC machines. So just like any other industry, building cars to stonework, it's exactly the same. That's probably 80% of it has been taken over by CNC, whether it's saws or milling machines, and that kind of is cutting down the hand labor. And it's not many. I think the big problem here in America is there's actually not many places to go and learn. There's no really colleges to go learn that. When I apprenticed in England, there were 400 stone carvers. In the US, sort of in the professionals, it's only about 45. So for the size of America, there's not very many stone carvers.
But the reason we do it is to try to get these young kids interested in this. So as the older carvers pass on, we don't lose this art form. People build as cheaply as they can. They don't want to pay for stone carving. But once people see what this is, there's a 10-mile swath from Ellettsville to Ellettsville of the best limestone in the nation. And this is where it comes from, the Empire State Building, the National Cathedral. We take it for granted.
Mark Fields comes every year from the Complete Sculptor. It's a sculpture supply house in New York City. He comes every year and sets up a little shop, and he sells other types of chisels and new hammers and pneumatic hammers and hoses and gloves and all our special little things.
So you've been coming here for over 20 years?
I have. I think the first year was either the third or the fourth year that it was in play.
Okay.
And I had known Amy for a number of years already because she had worked at the Cathedral in New York.
Right.
and then we ended up coming out here. I think the first year I drove out. And then we started to fly.
Okay. So tell us about what your role is here. What have we got on this table here? What's this?
Well, these are all the toys of the trade. So I'm actually known as the drug dealer in the industry because I've got all of the things that people pine after, and then they get a little taste and they just want more. So my company, The Complete Sculptor, procures and supplies materials from all over the world for sculptures. Everything is project driven. So there's not necessarily a single tool or a single item that people buy repeatedly. And there's really not much planned obsolescence in the industry. So they buy a tool and it works, and then they don't buy it again until they wear it out 10 years later. So it's really designed to achieve a function. Whether it's a shape or a cut or a finish, any of those types of things are all going to be very individual.
All you need is the spark of interest and desire. And I'd say 9 3/4 time out of 10, somebody comes and they think they'll try it, and then we see them the next day and the next day and the next day.
Well, you just have to start somewhere. So you just best to come to a symposium or something and actually try it out, see if you like it. I mean, I probably get one person a month emailing me, asking me where can they learn. And, you know, I just, half the time I don't know where to send them or what to tell them because apart from these type of symposiums, there isn't anywhere else.
It's addicting. It's the rhythm of it, the feeling of chipping through the stone. It's just a delicious thing.
Walking around the symposium work area, I got a chance to speak with some of the sculptors.
What I'm doing right this morning is what's called getting off the block. I spent the first couple of days establishing my profile, getting an opening, at least part of my opening, my hole through the piece that's planned to be in the piece. Actually, the hole is to make it easier to flip when we need to pick it up and things like that as well. But establishing it, and then this morning I'm taking my tools and starting to round the edges of the piece, since this is going to be basically a big teardrop shape, and then I'm going to lay in the different parts of texture when I get ready a little further along. But today is getting off the block. As you see with the lines drawn here, these will be different sets of texture on the piece when it's finished. But really what you do out here, since you're given 8 cubic feet of stone to work with, or can have up to that big a block, you do your design and then scale it up. Because my point of me coming is to be able to work as big as possible when I've got the equipment, access to the equipment to handle it, particularly at the front end. Because it's much safer for them to be handling a sawed side block that can slip, the straps can slip on, than it is for me to have one shipped and dumped on my sidewalk and then kind of go, okay, have fun. You know? No, this is much safer. And like I said, the camaraderie is just a nice, big and nice extra.
I'm Cheryl Lawrence. I live in Indianapolis and teach at Ivy Tech Community College, Fine Arts there. And I've been coming to the symposium since 2012. At that time I still lived in New Mexico and I was thinking about moving here. And then I did move here and I thought now I have the best stone right in my backyard. So I've been coming since and I've made a whole new group of sculpture friends here.
Good deal. So we headed over here a couple of days back and there was just a chunk of limestone here, just a big chunk of limestone. And in that time, you created something absolutely incredible here. You're working from this little model here, right?
Yeah, it's epoxy clay, so it hardens, which is great out here because it doesn't soften up on me or, you know, melt in the heat.
Okay.
And I can handle it without it distorting.
And that is going to be that, or a version of that.
I like to work from a plan, but I like the spontaneity that happens when you carve the stone.
Right.
Because you just kind of, it's also bigger. You just kind of start to get to dance around it and explore new possibilities. And I like to just let that happen, solve it as I go.
So how much longer would you say, I mean, you started here last week. How much longer would you say you have to work on this before you would consider it done?
That is so hard to answer because it moves along quickly, I think, when you're roughing it out and you're all excited, and then as you're finding the details, like the whole process starts to slow down a little because you're refining and you're just taking little bits off. It's really hard to give a time like that. I get asked that, but I don't typically spend more than about 3 weeks on it.
Okay. We also got a few words from John Fisher, a master carver and one of this year's featured instructors.
I want to teach a certain method of carving. So I believe it's the ancient method of carving, but that method has been lost over the centuries.
So what is this ancient method? What's different about it? What's different about it?
The difference is basically you should never look at the front of your chisel. You should never be able to see the front of the chisel. Because if I'm seeing the front of the chisel, I'm looking at the stone I'm taking away, which is my waste material. And if I can see the front of the chisel, the stone will fly back to my face. And I potentially would go blind if I didn't have my goggles on.
Sure, okay.
But the ancient method, also, if you carve the material in front of you, this material is backed up by material. And so it's harder to take off. However, on the very edge, what I call the profile profile is not a volume, it's a line. And that line, you can say, is either correct or incorrect. And if it's incorrect, you could draw the new line, and then you put your chisel on the line, and you hit, and you're looking behind your chisel, and the chip flies away from you, and it breaks exactly on the line. So I draw a new line,
Right.
say that's my new line.
Gotcha.
I put my chisel right on the line, and I hit, and it breaks right on the line.
Breaks away from
And
you.
so now I have a new line, and if that line was the line of a shoulder or a knee or whatever, then I would find that line. I don't have to think about volume, because this will always be volume. What has to be correct is that every line is correct as I walk around it. But I only have to solve one line at a time. And so it's always a yes or no answer.
Right.
Is that line correct? Is this line correct? Is this line correct? And because I'm carving the profile, the material goes off easily and exactly where I want it. And I can see what I'm doing. This, if you take this material off, not only does it come back at you, you can't really see what happened. Whereas here, I see exactly what happened.
We came back a few days later to see how some of the sculptures had progressed.
Most of the things that have been done recently was, particularly yesterday afternoon on Sunday, was open this out more and start actually defining the shape that the whole opening of what we call negative space is going to have. That also has the effect of getting some of the weight off. But we'll continue refining the outside curves and bringing the edges together. You see I'm continuing to keep my center points, my half point, and my widest point marked while I'm carving. So that even though it's a very free form, I've got designated points that I'm hitting. And what the plan is obviously I've still got a thin here, but I'm waiting, don't get that too delicate until you have to. There'll be smooth sections here that I'll take a polishing fluid to that will really bring up the color. So the piece will almost appear two-toned when I'm finished. Okay? And then do what limestone does best, which is lovely textures on the other part. So in other words, basically a band of smooth around the negative space and then a band of smooth down the simpler edge coming into the front, and then texture so that you've got the interplay in the design.
Although Sharon worked extensively on her piece at the Symposium, she decided to complete it after returning home to South Carolina.
This was a push for the 10 days, but I got a lot of stone off in a lot of ways. When I get back, it will, as I call it, making the lines sing. Working that refinement, proportion, angle, so that everything, when you look at it, it's a wow, not a, that's a lump. And that's going to be a talking process back and forth with the piece, really.
So you're happy with your 10 days, what you've done in that time?
Oh, absolutely. And these folks are always wonderful. It's like I say, today, this was going to be a little complicated. Got some very talented forklift folks on the field, but the mill came over and assisted. Ivy Stone is always wonderful. They take extremely good care of us too. That's very much appreciated. So they came and helped do this. So yeah, real confident when they've had their hands on it.
Cheryl didn't finish her piece during the symposium, but she did send us photos of her finished gorilla.
We have a website, limestonesymposium.org. Tons of information there, videos, all sorts of things.